Good morning, everyone. My name is Helena Nat. I'm the Executive Director with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. And I'm really excited about today's, it's not a webinar. We usually do webinars, but this is like a very important meeting. And we set it up in meeting mode on Zoom. So you do have the opportunity to either, show, put it on video if you don't want to show your face. Or if you want to show your face, you have that opportunity for the communication. We're really proud to have Get Some Joy. We have Alex and Anisha. They have been members of the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, and they come on to our networking events, and they just provide so much information on creative wellness, we've been talking about mental health awareness and how important it is to bring those words into everyday conversations, whether you're in your business or at home. And we want to normalize it. We want to make sure that this is a conversation that people have, because it's very important for, especially over life, but especially the last 2 years, people are talking about it more and more. And we want to, again, make sure that everyone has access to information. And this is what this presentation is going to open doors to. We also have another active business leader with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. His name is Yona Khan, and he is from Mass Mutual, and also a big advocate for mental health awareness. So between Get Some Joy and Yona Khan from Mass Mutual, we've got the business leaders in the wellness area for the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we have a chat going on. After Alex and Anisha make the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to open it up to Q&A, and you can ask questions in the chat. We might call on you to unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with today. It's an open meeting after Alex and Anisha have their presentation. So please, everyone mute themselves during the presentation. If you see something that you want to talk about regarding the presentation, put it in the chat, and then we'll unmute everyone and have an open dialogue. So thank you, again, Alex and Anisha, Get Some Joy. Thank you so much. Yona Khan from Mass Mutual, thank you so much for their time, because this is a very important subject matter that should be talked about all the time. So Alex, take it away. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Helena, for that wonderful introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Hardy. I'm the co-founder of Get Some Joy. And as mentioned, we are a creative wellness agency, and we support communities and organizations with joy-infused programming and resources and experiences in the wellness space.
Just one thing, Alex, can you speak up a little bit?
Okay.
Perfect.
And so, yes, we support communities with wellness training and programming. And that's important to us because, the world is on fire. It's a raggedy time, and it's important for people to have support in communities, especially in the professional space, and know that they can still show up to work as their full selves, and also have the resources and the tools to be connected and to be supported enough to do their jobs. And so today we're going to be talking about prioritizing mental health at work, and in particular centering joy. And that's one of the things that we emphasize within Get Some Joy. My name is Alexander Hardy. I'm a mental health first aid instructor. I lead it for adults, for youth, and in Spanish, and for adults who work with youth. We do literary therapy. I'm also a home cook, and part of just full transparency, one of the things that we promote here in Get Some Joy is just being able to be open about what you're dealing with and what you're navigating and what you're carrying. And, as you are in the workplace and conducting things. So I do need to share that I'm here today. Today is Friday. My mother passed away on Tuesday. And being here today to do this workshop with you all part of my process of like, this was something she was very excited for me to be doing. And so I'm so thankful to have you all here as we move through this space and this experience together. So again, I just need to say that in case I have any moments during our time together today. So just want to get that out of the way. And also I'm joined by my wonderful co-founder, Anisha, who is, she handles our marketing and our communications, and she'll be assisting with this presentation and our time together as well. Whew. Okay, so with that said, today, well, let me get past this part. Again, Get Some Joy, we're a creative wellness agency, and some of the ways that we support organizations and some of the ways that we kind of emphasize mental health in communities is through our community-facing events, virtual cook-alongs, mental health first aid trainings, a spiritual wellness workshop series, and also workshops to develop mental health in the workplace with Get Some Joy at Work. Also at school with Get Some Joy at School, of schools of all levels, just in case anyone is connected to any organizations that may be in need of support in terms of amplifying their wellness programming. Some of the programming that we offer to support organizations are things like our community wellness assessment, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but we'll get into the culture of wellness at Joy and helps answer the question, how supported do your community members feel, whether that be in an academic institution, in a small business, in a large corporation, etc. Our virtual cook-alongs bring people together to celebrate food and joy and have community building conversations. Mental health first aid training is a way to train everyday people, non-professionals, to recognize signs of mental illness, substance use challenges, and offer support, and a couple other things. So if any of your organizations or just from, ideas around things that you can do to support joy in your various communities, here are some. We'd love to work with you on anything that you have a need for. And again, thank you all so much for the condolences. You all for being here today to help in this time. So first of all, let's just take a deep breath. Can we just, is that okay? Let's just take like 2 or 3 deep breaths. Whatever. Carrying. Let me just mute. If I could ask everyone to please mute. I'm here. There we go. Let's just take 2 deep breaths before we go into our grounding moment. And the grounding exercises are things that can help guide you, reset you in a moment of distress, to help kick off your meetings with a moment to just woosah, to take a few deep breaths and shake off whatever you were carrying before the meeting, before your workshop, etc. So, take a few deep breaths, and we're going to move into this exercise, which we use in our literary therapy sessions to, and in our meetings, things that we ask people in our meetings, because we center joy like that. The question I have for you is, what's the best thing that happened to, around, or because of you in the past week? That is the question that I would like us to just consider for a moment. And actually, I would like to hear, if you all are down, a few responses. It doesn't have to be a professional victory. It can be in anything. We think it's important for us to celebrate ourselves, even as we're going and capitalism all to the way to the top. So if anyone would like to share, please unmute or raise a hand or share in the chat, or what are some highlights that have kept you going this past week?
Yes, put it in the chat. Let's get this chat going.
Anisha, how about you? What's the best thing that happened to you?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Alex. I'm using my phone for audio because my computer is being a little wonky, but can everybody hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say the best thing that happened to me this week is I stayed over at a friend's house, and I was so tired, and she made me the best breakfast, and before she had put some blankets over me, and I just thought how wonderful that is to be able to be in communion and have relationship with friends who can see you and care for you. And just that small gesture meant so much to me, to be able to lay down and have someone put a blanket over me. It brought so much feelings of comfort and safety And I really, really appreciated that because I know it's not guaranteed to be able to have those types of opportunities and relationships in your life. So that's the best thing that happened to me. I'm so grateful for it.
Would anyone else like to share anything, any highlights from their past week, professional or otherwise?
Simone said she just connected yesterday spontaneously with an acquaintance and had an amazing brainstorming session that opened up so many new possibilities that she would have never considered. So that's pretty exciting. Karen Shaw, business leader with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us. I helped someone with a global video project, which made her so happy. Well, you know what, just the little things. Yona had mentioned someone reached out to him and they said it was due to his vulnerability. So these are all really, really good things. I want to share something. There happens to be a lost peacock in our general area. And I was on the neighborhood app. I posted it, and then I'm communicating with the owner of the peacock. The peacock kind of stranded. And I really want to connect this lost peacock with this family. And she was trying to tell me, you know, how to get this. It's a tame peacock, but I'm like kind of beside myself because I want to make sure that this peacock gets reunited with the family. So it's a good thing because we know that this peacock is in a safe area right now and still alive. So Catherine Fazio says, I volunteered my services and was rewarded by having my name in the program. And she felt very useful.
Love that. Shamim said that I went to watch my kids at a horseback riding competition at a ranch in Maryland. And one of the staff at the ranch came up to me and gushed about how kind and respectful my girls are, how they were a joy to be around. That is always a gift when, you know, I'm sure as parents, you can know that you're doing a good job and that your young people out in the world, not embarrassing you and dishonoring your family name. So shout out to good parenting. Thank you all for these shares. Someone else won a government contract. Shout out to you. Congratulations. And yeah, I was going to just comment on what Yona shared about someone reaching out to you because of your vulnerability. That's something so great to model for people and for people to know that you're a safe space and they can share what they're going through with you and they won't be judged. They won't be critiqued or made to feel less than. So that is super, super important.
I just wanted to add something also. First, I want to express my condolences to you, but along the same lines, I happened to have been at the right place at the right time. There was someone that I knew for many years and he was sick and just so happened, unfortunately, he passed away. And on that Tuesday, I was in the right place at the right time, to be able to go to the memorial service and go to the cemetery. And there really were very few people outside of the family that was there. And it really was a perfect opportunity to be able to be part of it. And it just was like sheer circumstance that I was in the right place to be able to do it on a couple hours notice. So I felt good in the sense that I had the last chance to speak about the person and speak about him to their family. And I know that they really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's super important because that's good for your mental health too. And it's also, you know, good for the family in those situations to have that support. So thank you so much, Andy, for that, for letting us know about that. And so this best thing activity is something that we do in our literary therapy meetings, sessions, in our Twitter space, mental health check-ins, and give people a chance to celebrate themselves and just share about some of the highlights and things that have bringing them joy. You know, the news is full of trash, honestly, and it's so important to have a break from, you know, even like professional duties and things like that to celebrate oneself and what's going on. So Anisha is going to offer a few questions for reflection that will help guide us into this conversation on prioritizing mental health in the workplace. Anisha?
Okay, So it's a good idea for us to reflect on what communication in a healthy work community feels like, so we can be intentional about creating that for ourselves and for others, as well as how should people working in this healthy working community feel, right? By contemplating how we want to show up in safety and how we want to create an environment for others to show up to be their whole selves and be vulnerable, and feel safe in community. Curious about what safety in a healthy work community feels like for you all, and how you think about how you want to feel when you are working with someone, when you're, developing a project or brainstorming in a team, and the safety you want around your ideas and how you show up, etc. So let's do a little brainstorm about how we want to feel and how we like others to feel, and the elements of a healthy work community. For myself, part of that safety means my ideas being contemplated and not shot down.
Yeah, I would say definitely, a place where you can feel like you're going to be respected. You are going to be valued and feel like not just, a number towards someone bottom line. Um, a place where, you can feel like you're contributing to something that is important to you also. And to know that like where people are going to treat you that way, like a whole human being. And they're not going to talk to you violently.
Yeah, someone mentioned in the chat, non-threatening communication, no verbal attacks, exactly, Alex, what you're saying, feeling validated. But Alex, can I throw something out there that I got an email on that you're talking about right now? There are so many times that you want to support someone, kind of give, I'm looking at this, this slide that you're giving someone a hug. So maybe, you're the expert on this. And they sat there and they said, but right now they can't, they don't feel comfortable giving a hug in a workforce in today's day and age, even though, they want to, and the other person, just a hug, like that slide, you're supporting the person. You want to sit there and hug the person, and share, whatever they are going through, but they feel uncomfortable that they cannot do that because of, you're not, you can't, some companies, you're not supposed to be even, not the word touching people, but you know what I'm saying, being politically correct. So maybe you can address that, like good, tools to, words that they can use, or just other actions that will, that they can use to help for that support.
Absolutely. Anisha, Anisha, has an extensive background in marketing, and working in, communications and in these corporate spaces. So could you share, how you handle that from your professional perspective? And I see your hand as well, Yona.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say the same thing that's being shared in the chat with Karen and Harry. A lot of times, this image, it elicits feelings of connectedness and comfort, but we absolutely don't have to have that happen physically in order for people to feel connected and comforted. The idea of being seen and accepted, and the energy around that, and definitely using your words to share, I'm here for you, let me know what you need. It's okay. It's okay that you can't, do all these things right now, or all statements that will make someone feel seen, comforted, and like they can exist as they are with the, with the up and downs of life and still be considered, a dependable person, still be considered, worthwhile to work with or partner with, etc. And really just understanding that, that we're living in a very harsh capitalistic system. And yes, things have to get done, but also understanding that we are engaging human to human with all of the life elements that we are all carrying, because we all have them. And instead of compartmentalizing that at work, just showing up and understanding that we all want to show up as our whole selves and making space for other people to be their whole selves. And you don't even have to have a handshake, a touch, or any of that. Or even, too much sympathy, right? We don't, people who are struggling or who need support, they're not asking for sympathy. They just want to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. And you can absolutely do that with your words, and with your actions by, being considerate in what they say they need, or even possibly taking some things off their plate so that they can see you are being considerate, of their needs where they are right now. And trust me, it will feel like a hug to them inside.
Yeah, that was perfect. I mean, I think you can support people in so many ways without the physical touch. Yona?
So I had experience a while back ago where, just because of the nature of the work that I do, and also because I'm a very open person about my own struggles, I felt like I wanted to offer the person I was speaking to a hug. And rather than just go ahead and hug that person, I asked, may I give you a hug? And one of the most profound things happened to me when that person said no. I was like, okay. Sometimes there is something about physical touch that has an effect on us. But if I'm offering a hug to someone who I feel could use it, that's okay. But it is my obligation to respect their no and not say, but it's only a hug, or anything like that. And the next day I got a call from that person that says, thank you for not pushing.
That's important.
That's important as well. So just felt like sharing that with you guys.
Thank you. I think that's a great way to handle it. I was going through this in the hospital recently, and a nurse asked if she could hug me because she saw that I was going through it. I don't know how professionally how that works, but the fact that she asked was so big to me, and humanizing also. So thank you so much for that. Karen, please.
Well, I had two different types of bosses. One, for the most part, in most of the places I worked at, were extremely supportive and told me so. They always commented on things that I did and really made me feel good. The last boss that I had, the owner of the agency, had no idea what I did. And he would ask for a list of what I do, and I would give it to him. And maybe a couple of months later, he would ask for a list of what I do. So it wasn't even important enough for him to look at the list. So, you see the difference there. But what I really wanted to say was, it's not only in the workplace. I talk about Helena a lot. In the networking groups, there are people who run the group, and one person, I wear a hat all the time. It started out because I had pandemic head, because I couldn't get a haircut for a year, and it ended up being my signature. So I wear my hat all the time. I think if I went to an event and didn't wear it, nobody would know who I was. So I saw this woman who runs one of the groups, and she looked at me like she never saw me before. And I saw her every week for, I don't know, year and a half. And when I said who I was, I said, I'm surprised you didn't recognize me because of my hat. And she said, hat? Oh, well, when I look at everybody, I just see a blur. But when you go to the chamber and Helena is leading the group, She hears everything you say. She sees you, she hears you, she talks to you, she puts you together with people in the group. She puts you together with other groups. She'll say, send me an email, remind me, I'll send you a list. So needless to say, I'm not in that other group anymore, and I'm in chamber all the time. That's it.
Thank you so much. That's important. So that's communication that makes people feel acknowledged, remembered, considered. That Helena's very much invested in the success of everyone here, which contributes to everybody's community wellness and sense of belonging. And who wants to be in an environment, especially where you're paying, where people don't know who you are or care who you are. So that is a great example of making people feel seen and valued and heard and respected and loved and appreciated and all of that stuff. So thank you so much for sharing that. So there we go. So there's a lot of things that are affecting how people are dealing and navigating the world right now, and we're just going to share four. But I'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the chat some things that are affecting your particular or in your group collective sense, mental health and the culture of joy at work. Obviously, everyone is navigating many unforeseen and new and compounded challenges at work, in their professional lives, at home, in their community, financial lives. And all of those things affect how you show up to work, how you're able to function, how on top of things you're able to be, your motivation for things that you love and have historically been very good at. All of these things are going, you can't really, though you can leave them aside when you walk into the office or log onto your computer, they are always going to be present in your communication and how you show up at work. Also, beyond your individual performance and role, if you're working in a raggedy, toxic culture, or there is a joyless, oppressive leadership that is not compassionate, does not know your name, does not know what you do, does not care about your well-being, that's going to affect how you show up at work as well. That's going to affect your motivation. It's going to affect the connection that people have to their job, to their passions and things that they even love and studied and paid many student dollars for. Excessive workload and burnout, of course, as well as lack of connection and community. It can be different in the virtual space to feel that same level of connection, that water cooler, rundown, briefings, sharing looks across the meeting table with coworkers, whatever those things are that made work sustainable for you. A lot of organizations, we work with a lot of people in a lot of companies, and a lot of people are not feeling that sense of connection. The only time they convene with their colleagues is for a meeting. It's only about the work and the role, and it's not about what's going on, and there's no space for those things. So that's one way that you can definitely, and feel free to let us know in the chat if there's anything else that comes to mind for you, but would love to know what are some other things that are impacting your particular work situation in this time. Steve, anyone else? I think someone had unmuted. If anyone else want to share anything that are impacting your particular mental health in your workplace or as it relates to your work? Or Helena, I'm curious from you and what you've seen. You work with a lot of leaders, you work with a lot of organizers and community members of all levels. What are some of the challenges, the main complaints and things that you're seeing as far as people's mental health?
In mental health, there's two things. There's the factor of working from home, and then pivoting back. The stresses of working from home. You have people that are single mothers or single fathers that have to navigate while they're working, with childcare. And things like that. And also people pivoting from working from home in the comfort of their home for the last 2.5 years to going back to a working environment. So the anxiety, I hear anxiety a couple of, back and forth on how to minimize that. There's factors. They go on the train. They want people to be masked up. They're not masked up. They worry, they worry about their safety because there's so much, there is so much information being put out in the media, through social media, through newspapers, through just through the news. So they get nervous on taking, the subway. I have a member that doesn't want to do in-person networking because she's worried about taking the subway. So these are the little things that I'm hearing when it comes to, the personal things that are going on that are challenges for them to navigate back to pre-COVID.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're hearing a lot of that as well. Having to be worried about health concerns and, cleanliness and sanitizing in the midst of all the other challenges and things that you have in the workplace and in the workday. Shrinking budgets, less prioritization around things that are not directly related to the bottom line or profit, programs disappearing, all types of things.
So the goal becomes, how can I get the specifics of what I need here in a sort of a quick manner? So I want to echo Keisha's feedback about asking them, what is the best way for me to engage with you?
Okay. So, I just want to, I see here in the chat, Yona says, people in sales can get into a rat race situation and it can be a vicious cycle, which is very true. And we hear that a lot from people who have high, marks to meet or high quotas and things like that. Shamim says, I took on a remote job about 6 months before the pandemic. My previous supervisor never organized team meetings for our department. Supervisor was not toxic or oppressive, but they just didn't give importance to team building. It had a negative impact on our overall productivity, which is, I feel, thank you for that. That's a great example where the only thing that matters to them is work and performance and output, and not on human-centered connection and being able to connect outside of roles, deliverables, deadlines, profits, and projects and things like that. So I'm curious from you all, how do organizations and communities improve mental health and sense of joy at work? I would love if anyone would love to, unmute or share in the chat briefly. What are maybe one or two things that you think organizations could do to improve mental health at work?
I'll start off on that. I think that if you have, if you have you don't even need the space. Just like Alex and Anisha, what we did, and Yona, what we did this morning, you went, had an introduction and you said, hey, let's breathe. Let's breathe. Let's stop, take a breath. And also the other thing was, which I thought was fabulous, is I believe in the law of attractiveness, positivity. And you said, what was the best, what was the best thing that happened to you this week? And if ever, you don't have to have a team meeting, but you can say, oh, everyone, you know what, do a group chat and, just say what the best thing happened to you yesterday, or what's the best meal that you ate, or just little suggestions like that. That's just an idea.
That is great. Affirming, prioritizing connection. Absolutely. Karen?
I worked in a place that I was in advertising, and on good days we had 2 hours for lunch, but it was more than that. It was extremely stressful. And it seemed that the owners of the agency, the partners, realized how stressful it was, and they took one office and they put a sofa in and a monitor and a TV, and they said, whenever you feel stressed, just go in there. We even had Heineken as a client, so they put some in their fridge and some Coke, and they said, just go in, have a beer, sit, watch TV, just chill. Nobody will say a word to you. Nobody will question you. We just know that there are times when you just need that.
Yona and Catherine have their hand up, and also Harry puts a smile, promote a little laughter sometimes. That's very important. Let's go to Yona and then Catherine.
I love the idea of nap rooms. That is something that I've noticed that if I nap during a really busy workday, I'm just a better person. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better, financial planner and all that. But one of the things, and again, I don't see it enough, and especially in a high pressure environment world, in the financial world, is we our bosses have to remember that there's a personal life behind a professional life. If most people may not know that I'm a husband, most people may not know that I'm a father, most people may not know that I have mental health struggles, most people may not know, most people may not know. So let's create an environment where it's okay not to know if you don't want to, but also give that space. And it's and the and just from a professional setting, whenever I talk to especially business clients, their most financial important asset are their employees, right? We can talk about all the things that are financially, really expensive, but we spend so much on salaries, benefits, and all that. Why aren't we nurturing that asset? Because that's how our businesses grow. Not because we're so smart, but because we have people who are willing to do the work that needs to get done. So let's nurture them. What do they need to be better at their jobs? And sometimes it's a nap. Sometimes it's a room where no questions asked, you get to chill out, but really make that a focal point, not just, maybe we'll do something, really make it part and parcel of the process, which I don't see enough personally.
Thank you so much for that. Catherine and then Andy. Alex, if you can, chime in also. So Catherine and then Andy.
Yes, thank you. I think it's very important. We were talking about, safety and getting to work in the first place. And these days, it's very unpredictable. I think that we need to somehow get on the same page because safety is everybody's concern. You can't be happy at work. You can't do the best job at work, or you can't have the best family life if your neighborhoods are strewn with graffiti or things that are or unpredictable occurrences on the subway to get to work. So I think it's very important to have a coordinated conversation with government officials, that when they just say something, see something, say something, that it's not just that people get stuck in their own agendas, like secretaries at council offices or whatever, but there is actually everyone has something to say, and they have a platform. It's not like, well, I have my next phone call to answer, but somebody is in front of you saying something that might be important to the neighborhood or to the business, or to, and that sense of safety, I believe, it needs to be really addressed, especially during these times. So I think coordinated conversations. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you, Catherine. Very, very important, Alex. That is and that's one thing that the chamber has heard. And we actually have had an open forum and had some political leaders talking about that for safety in the workforce. Andy, I see your hand is up, Andy.
Yes, thanks. I wanted to comment on 2 points. First, I find a lot of stress around if you're with other people in a business setting, social setting, whatever the case is. I don't feel, as long as I'm wearing a mask, I feel somewhat comfortable. I would prefer if everybody wore it, but if they don't, if I have the mask on, I can accept it. Where I seem to feel a lot of stress is when it's an eating situation, meaning if there's a table and they want you to sit at a table and you don't want to sit right next to somebody. If there's a few people at a table and they're on opposite sides of the table, that's one thing. But if sitting right next to somebody, I find very uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, I don't do it. Eating, that that's a big stress factor. Another thing I wanted to comment on is I find that people don't return calls when they say they will. For instance, if you call somebody or you leave a message and they say, well, I'll get back to you in a week or so, it's not just one or two times. It's really just about across the board, I would say. They don't get back to you. And what that usually means is that what you want to talk to them about, they're not very interested in it, or it doesn't help them at the moment, or it's not what they're looking for or what's important to them. So they tend not to respond to it. I find the reaction that I get from that is that it's very frustrating to be the chaser instead of the chasee. And if that's happening multiple times, I find what's happening, I'm getting very exhausted, I'm getting tired, I'm falling asleep. And it's a vicious cycle, particularly when looking for, type of work or trying to network with somebody or trying to speak to them. And this is, like I said, this is not a one or two time experience. This is really the way it seems to be in the workplace these days. And it's very hard to combat that when I said when you're the chaser instead of the chasees. I just wondered if you could comment on that.
I thank you for sharing that. One thing I would just offer about that is people are overwhelmed. People are, inboxes blowing up, events overscheduled, double scheduled, family things, global trauma. So I would say don't take it personally. If this is how people operate as a business person, if this is how someone handles all their communication, I would just offer to not. It doesn't change the fact that it's happening or reduce the stress, but know that it's not like it's not personal. It may be a reflection of the times and the climate in which we're working, and in the way people. Just honestly, the expectation of responses being instantaneous, that's actually a very high expectation to have of people, just considering all the things that people are managing. But I just think that don't take it personally. And maybe I don't know if there's other ways to engage, text, email, other forms of outreach, but yeah, I in one way of showing grace to myself and others is you never know what's happening on the other side of that inbox, on the other side of that, whatever people's internal lives, things that you don't know about. So I would just say don't take it personally. And thank you so much for sharing that. So everyone has given some really great examples of some things that we could do, both small and large. The idea that change does not happen, just in one corner. It takes coordination, communication, support, allies, multiple things of resources. So we're just going to share just a couple of quick solutions, and things that are, free and also that take grander coordination as well to increase the culture of joy at work and to prioritize mental health. One thing that many people, Yona in particular, has mentioned, reducing the stigma around mental health, including wellness, and talking about mental health, the same way people talk about back pain or a babysitter challenge or something with their foot or stomach pain, because we're all dealing with things that are impacting our mental health. Employee assistance programs and accessible resources, making sure people know that we have this available, we have that available, whether it's professional help, whether that's a counseling program, whether that's grief counseling, making sure people know and actually making sure those things exist, of what those things are. Accommodations and supportive humane policies. Okay, you're managing people, not just numbers, not just cogs in a system. You're working with human beings with full lives, who have, personal lives, like Yona said, under their professional lives. Accommodations include things like, things around maternity and parental care, whether you have a child care center or support or facilities to support with parents, because childcare is a major stressor and, often it just inaccessibly expensive for some people. Those are things that impact employees. Their you know, accommodating people have doctor's appointments and things that happen during the day that you can't always get after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. So understanding that people have bodies that allow them to do the work that you need them to do. And so if they need 45 minutes or an hour to go to an appointment, hopefully that doesn't bring down your whole operation and your business still continues to function. Another thing that you could easily do, mental health training for all levels, leadership, you know, from the newest person all the way up the ladder to the oldest person, mental health first aid training, things to make sure that people are equipped to support each other as we navigate this raggedy. And kind of breaking down beneath that, what that could look like, just want to mention, actually, let me just go back here. Any comments, reactions, feedback, experience with any of these things here, how these things have been facilitated in your work environments that you're a part of? Any of you working in places that do mental health trainings, or you know, have mental health events or resources that have been supportive? Yona?
So while the company that I work for does have employee assistance programs and accessible resources, it is very cumbersome. It is very not well known. And again, there is obviously a limit to what they can do and offer because they are not a mental health resource agency. But the least I think they can do as they gain more awareness that mental health is a real challenge and it doesn't discriminate, that advertise those programs. Because for me and for others that I know, the challenge is being even aware of what's available. If I don't know that there's a resource available, how am I going to reach out to them? You know, it's acknowledging that I have a challenge. It's willing to work and reaching out, but I have to know there's something to reach out for. And I think larger companies, especially the Fortune 500 and up, need to do a better job at advertising. Just like they advertise, we have the best products, we have the best this, we have the best this. We should also advertise at that same level. We have these resources for you.
Very good points. Very good points. And hopefully, you know what, Yona, you know, this is being, we're recording this and it goes on Chamber TV, and a lot of the local city, state, federal agencies hopefully will be, you know, put their eyes on something like that, hear the comments, also, you know, the major corporations, small, medium-sized companies. But I think what you're addressing is so important, and what Alex and Anisha are talking about, this is just one of many, 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 many conversations that we're going to have. And this is just a great starting point, because we, you know what, if every person who represents their business can bring this information back, I think is very, very important. And then it's just going to hopefully spread like wildfire, and we can just definitely keep, you know, keep the motion going on this, and keeping it up, making it, you know, part of a everyday conversation. Like years ago, we, you know, Alex, we've talked about it. I know Yona and I have talked about it for, you know, the last 2 years. You know what, it's amazing now that when you talk about mental health, there's not I don't think there's a stigma, because I think people are relieved to hear that it's coming out of people's mouths in a positive way. And I think we just have to keep that motion going forward and not backwards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it's so important to keep the conversation going, to normalize these types of discussions, and to make people feel like it's okay to be a human being in the workplace, and it's okay to be dealing with what you're dealing with. And it does just how, you know, how you show up in the workplace, your contribution. Harry says, I wonder if sometimes company add these resources just to check a box so they can say they did, rather than really making it a priority. And they absolutely do. And you can see that in, you know, the robustness of the program, or the fact that, you know, you go through it and you can tell that it obviously wasn't intended to be used by an actual human being in need. And so you can actually, and it's the follow through. And if it's a one-time expression of support versus no resources or accommodations to back that up. And I'm gonna go a little bit deeper on these actual topics with a couple of additional suggestions for improving wellness in the workplace. So some other things you could do really casually, wellness check-ins during meetings, giving people space to acknowledge how they're doing, what they're carrying, what's going on. And also, I think as Yona mentioned and others have as well, to contribute to it being a cultural change, leaders speaking candidly about mental health. Again, you don't need to know about the details of their situation and detail all of what's happening, but acknowledging life events, acknowledging the, you know, the raggediness of the moment that we're in, or that it has impacts on us as human beings and team members. Access to mental health professionals, whether that is a database that you provide, and just FYI, Get Some Joy supports organizations in compiling and cultivating those resources. Support groups, staffing support groups, grief and loss support groups. We have organizations that do support groups for parents, support groups for anything, for leaders, and just making sure that there's opportunity for people to connect as human beings, not just as, you know, do you have that deliverable for me? Make sure that people that their full humanity is being acknowledged. These are just suggestions. So, you know, allowing people to go do what they need to do, go do a parenting thing, go to their kids' event at school and, you know, still be a human being. Quiet rooms, nap rooms, a quiet corner, noise canceling headphones for people with sensory challenges and differences, remote work flexibility. Is your location, you know, ADA accessible? Can people with ramps and different abilities comfortably access the space and the amenities that you have in your work environment? Things like that. Mental health first aid trainings, opportunities for leaders to discuss the impact of trauma on workers. Living in a pandemic, losing thousands of people on a daily, weekly, that's trauma. That affects how people show up in the world. So having for people to receive training on those things and know how to support others navigating those challenges. So I just wanted to offer a few deeper suggestions. Feel free to take a screenshot. We'll be sending this out to people as well, but if you want to take a screenshot or anything like that, that could be helpful. We would love to support you in, you know, cultivating these resources. Please let me know if I'm saying this correctly. Beja. We operate a 24-hour call center providing case intake and mental health counseling to schools and state federal agency callers. We provide counseling to our staff who are understandably stressed at this time. The counseling is done remotely and is highly effective. We notice that not everyone feels comfortable signing up for this service, wary of confidentiality, but more and more employees are taking advantage of this. We also provide mental health training to our clients' employees. That's a great idea. You know, things like that, that understanding capacity. You are not social workers and counselors, so the best thing that many organizations can do is outsource those things to a different company, you know, or a program that provides those services, so they can do the counseling and they can do the thing, you know, the outreach and support, instead of, you know, the managers trying to triage and provide that deep mental health care. So definitely outsource, collaborate with organizations using your local and federal resources to support those other things. Any other, you know, things that, seeing this list here, feel free to share in the chat any reactions or comments or experiences with any of these things. But that's, you know, all pretty much we have for you in terms of this. Thank you so much to everyone for being here, and for Helena for creating this space for us to spend this time talking about feelings. Definitely reach out and, you know, connect with us if you would like to discuss how we can support your organization.
Thank you so much, Alex, Anisha, and Yona. We have like 3 or 4 more minutes. Hard stop at 11. We respect everyone's time. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll be monitoring that. You know what? This is so great that we're having you know, open communication. And what's more important is, you know, we're sharing information. That's, you know, it's very important that we share that. Bazia, I think that's fabulous that you offer that. Maybe you can reach out to me and give me your template on that, and then so I can kind of, if companies, I also think that, Alex, chime in on this also. Companies don't have the resources for things that the extent that Bassia's company has. And I think if we share that, it makes it a lot more accessible, and it's going to be part of a conversation when you hire someone. You always ask for, who's your emergency contact? But you should also ask, is there anything that I should be aware of? Would you like to, do a checklist? I love the idea of the naps and having the idea of like a quiet room, or do you need time, or during the day, or, let us know if our kids are having a performance in school, that we can adjust that. So they know up front that it alleviates a little bit of that anxiety. Let me go to, before we do have, just so you know, this is being recorded. Definitely reach out to Alex and Anisha from Get Some Joy. Also reach out to Yona. Yona, if you want, put your contact information in the chat. Both are members of the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. I don't see the questions. I don't know, Alex, you might have, is there any other questions?
Let me see.
I think.
Someone said,
Do we automatically get a link to the recording? The link, it will be on Chamber TV. So just go to our website, www.chamber.nyc. And on the right side of the home page, it says Chamber TV. Just, there's a drop down box on that. And this will be, just give it to, I'll be able to get it up this weekend. And I will send you, as long as you RSVP on the website to this, that you got the Zoom link, I will send the PowerPoint presentation once I get it from Alex. And also I'm going to ask Alex and Anisha to kind of do an overview write-up so we can put it on the Chamber News, which is really, really important. Just key takeaways that will help support the conversation about mental health awareness in the business and the workforce. So thank you everyone for joining us. This was fabulous. Again, Get Some Joy, reach out to them. They have their email, pick up the phone, give them a call, whichever you're more comfortable with. And we appreciate everyone who participated, opened up, who, might have been out of their comfort zone, turned on their video, or they participated. And I would be remiss to sit there and say that, Alex, Yona, Anisha, Karen Shaw, picture this photo, Catherine, are all active members within the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. I see Alan Siege is on here, active member. I'm just going through. If I do not mention you, I'm just going by people's names. I usually recognize by company names. So again, without the participation with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, we can't put this on. So thank you all so much. By the way, this Wednesday is an in-person networking coffee. Go to chamber.nyc if you want to make some real, one-on-one nice connections. You'll be meeting me and my, friendly staff. Join us. It's a lot of fun. Talk to you later, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Alex, you want to give the last word?
thank you, everyone. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Anisha. Thank you, Yona. Thank you, continue to normalize these conversations and have a great day.
Find some joy
everyone.
today.
Have a great weekend. Be well and safe.